Hey guys, this is Brandy from Bless Her Health YouTube and Instagram, and I wanted to jump on here real quick because I was told a study technique for the MCAT last night from someone who really knows his stuff that absolutely blew my mind. It wasn't a technique that I had ever considered, but I can definitely see how that would be a successful technique, and I had to share it with y'all. So, background. This technique came from my anatomy instructor. He is the head of the pre-health committee at ODU, and he has helped thousands of students in the last, I want to say 35 years, with their MCAT, with applying to med school, getting into med school. Basically, a letter recommendation from him is like the golden ticket to the Willy Wonka chocolate factory. So I was discussing with him after class the MCAT, and he gave me 3 techniques to use to study for the MCAT that is basically gold. I mean, I was so in awe after our conversation because, again, these are not approaches that I would have thought of, and it's a completely different style technique or study technique than what I was doing. And I was just left completely inspired by this conversation and so excited to try studying for the MCAT that way and to share it with you guys so that we can do it together and see our scores skyrocket. So the first thing he said is to always study in a group. This is not really my favorite. I am a loner study person. But the reason he wants everyone to stay in a group and the reason that he advocates it throughout our class, and I mean, he actually makes us form study groups, is because when you teach the material, you learn the material even better. And being in a group environment where you can each teach yourself the material is going to help you immensely to learn the material yourself and to understand it. He is very anti-memorizing. He wants you to learn and understand the concepts and drills that into us, and teaching it is a great way to really drill those concepts in, and so that you can understand it from 3 different angles of being able to teach it from different angles. So that is a big thing, is studying in a group. I'm going to try doing that this time around because I always study by myself. The other thing, that the second technique, is clusters. So he makes us do cluster homework assignments so that we can learn how to cluster and get used to it and do it a lot. And at first I kind of scoffed at it because it's not how I learn, which he's also having us do our learning styles, figure out how we're supposed to be learning, how our brain works. But after doing it, I think there's definitely a lot of benefit to it. So basically a cluster is you take a concept or a topic. Sorry, my cat is really wanting to be in this video. So you take a topic and then you think of everything you possibly can think about that topic, and you can do it different ways, but the way that is most done and the way that he likes is you basically put a topic in a bubble, branch stuff off of it, which connect to other topics, branch stuff off that, and it becomes this whole concept map of topics. So for instance, yesterday in class we talked about cortisol, and we had to name 10 things we know about cortisol. And he doesn't want you to know just the definition. Oh, it's a steroid. Know everything about cortisol, know how it connects to other things, so for like the 10 things that we did for cortisol, obviously it's a hormone, it's a steroid, it's a lipid. Because it's a lipid, it's made in the smoothie R. See, there you got another bubble. Now you got the smoothie R, and you can go from there. If you have too much of it, it's Cushing's disease. If you have too little of it, it's Addison's. It increases blood glucose. It stimulates the liver to dump its glucose. Now you've got the liver, you've got glucose, you got homeostasis. The Cori cycle is because of cortisol. So, I mean, when you start thinking of cortisol and all the things it does, or it is, or where it comes from, or everything involving cortisol, you start getting these branches out where you've got the smoothie R, you've got diseases, you've got glucose homeostasis, you've got the liver, you've got the Cori cycle, you got metabolism, and you start branching out and understanding the big picture. How is everything connected and what does it all mean? Instead of just cortisol is a hormone, it's a steroid. So he definitely recommends clustering, and I know that's not technical. I like my study nice and neat and in lines and outline format. I definitely have learned a lot from doing that. And the other one we talked about last night was the G0 phase of the cell cycle. What do you know about the G0 phase? Well, it's not reproducing. So what cells don't reproduce in adults? You got nerves and neurons. You've got cardiac cells. Why do they not reproduce in adult cells? Well, because they don't have centrioles. So now you've got these connecting things. You could talk about the nerves. You can talk about cardiac. You can talk about reproduction in the cell cycle. You can talk about centrioles and what they are and what they do, and it kind of just evolves, and it makes it a conversation versus memorizing exactly what it is in the definition. So I highly recommend clustering. I balked at it at first. I was like, no, but it's definitely helping me with this anatomy class that is brutal. So I definitely recommend it. And lastly, the third thing he said that is more MCAT specific. We were kind of talking about how to MCAT study, and he asked me how I study. And I said, well, I focus mostly on content because I've had these classes years ago. I need to learn all this stuff again, and I do well in critical thinking and I do well in timing, but it's the content I have an issue with. And he kept telling me, no, you're doing it wrong. That's not how you do it. You don't sit there and read all the chapters. And that's what everyone does, I know y'all out there, we do it. We read the chapters. We write the summaries. We focus a lot of energy on these content books and trying to shove all this content in our brains. And he said that is the absolutely wrong thing to do. And that instead of making the content the focus of our MCAT, we need to use the content as a resource. And here's how he said to do it. So if you just pour yourself over the books, you're not really going to learn the material. And you're going to think you know the material and you don't, is what he said, not me. So what he says to do is to take a practice exam, be in a group. Sorry, there's a baby crying in the background. Okay, so take a practice exam, get in a group or by yourself, but mostly in a group, and look at each question one by one and go into the content to answer the question. So instead of studying content for however long and then trying to do practice exams, because that's what we all do, right? We read the books, we study the content, then we take a full-length practice exam, and then we go, oh crap, look at our score. Instead of doing that, erase all of that. Take a practice exam. Don't take the whole thing, just take the practice exam in your hands and go question by question and figure out why A is the correct answer and why B, C, and D are wrong. Go into your content and figure out why A is the answer and why B, C, and D is wrong. And debate the answers in your group and debate which answer is right and how you know it's right and where it's coming from. And use the practice questions and practice exams to lead you on your content review. So instead of sitting down and reading chapter 5, 6, 7 out of physics, take a physics section, take one question at a time, dismantle it. What is the question asking? What are the answer choices? Go into your content, figure out what it's asking, figure out which answer is right, and connect it that way so that you can learn from the questions and not from the content. And then do that with each question. Keep going back into the content and figuring out what the answer is and working through question through question through question. And that way you're connecting the MCAT style questions with the MCAT knowledge, because the MCAT is not a content test. And we know this. We know that the MCAT is not a memorize all this science and regurgitate it. But we're so hardwired as college students to study and try to absorb all this content and then apply it to exams. And he does the opposite with his classes. Seriously, Kat. He gives us questions on the exams that we haven't even covered in class, which is extremely stressful. But he knows that if we have a question on an exam and we're like, what in the world is this? We're going to go back and figure out what it is. And we're going to remember that, and we're going to learn that better than just reading the chapters and then either doing well or not doing well in the exam. And that's why when we take exams for his class, we get to write down 5 questions on a scrap piece of paper that later get handed back to us after he makes sure that there's nothing extra on there. And that way we can take those exam questions, because he recycles some questions. We can take those exam questions and look up what the answers are and why is this the answer. And that way you're learning from the questions versus learning the content and trying to apply the questions. So take the questions and apply it to the content. And this literally blew my mind, because I would have never thought to sit with a practice exam and dismantle the questions and have the questions take me into content and go only into the content to answer that question, and then do that question after question after question after question. And it just, I mean, I've studied for the MCAT now for a couple years. I've taken it twice unsuccessfully, which I also had outside reasons. Look at my MCAT story if y'all are curious about that. But this, normally I would have kind of laughed it off and been like, you're crazy. That's not how everybody else is MCAT studying. That's not what every book and every MCAT course and everything out there tells us how to MCAT study. But one, this man is highly respected, and I get why he is, because he is pretty brilliant. And two, I've seen it work in his class. I had a question on my exam that I just took where he does drop down questions where it's 10 points in one question. So it's 10 questions in one question, and then you only have a certain amount of answers and you have to apply them to each one. So there was, and they're so stressful. So there was a drop down question, and it had a list of vesicles. And it was like lysosome vesicle, peroxisome vesicle. I mean, it was just a list of 10 different vesicles. And your answer choices were active enzymes, inactive enzymes, ligands. Basically, what's in these. And I looked at that question and was like, seriously, WTF? Like, I have no idea what kind of enzymes are in these 10 different vesicles. I didn't even know there were 10 different vesicles. So what am I even looking at? I mean, I studied the cell. I've studied the cell for years, and I know you guys have studied the cell over and over and over and over. We know all the parts of the cell and what they do. But one, that question was insane. But two, it makes you really think and try to use critical thinking skills to answer these questions. And that's why a lot of students at ODU do really badly in the anatomy exams, because he does it MCAT style, aka critical thinking, of if you can take a question that you might not understand, but take A to B to C to D to E to F, you can kind of get to the answer. And I did that on quite a bit of his questions, which is why I made 103 with the grade adjustment. So, that question really bothered me because I had no idea. I didn't even know how to work it in my brain. And I asked him about it last night, and he loved it. That this question bothered me so much that I wanted to know what was the answer and how do I figure this out and how do I learn this. And he didn't actually give me the answer. He gave me just enough information for me to look into it deeper and figure it out. But I guarantee you that when I look into it deeper and figure it out, I haven't done it yet because it was late last night. It was a question, or was our lecture. When I do figure it out, that is going to be burned into my brain, and I will forever know what is inside these vesicles. I might never use that information, but it'll be there in my brain, because that investigative, taking a question, what the hell is the answer? How do I get this answer? Where would I even find this answer? And taking it to your content and working it out. You're going to remember it a million times better than if you just read an entire content book, take an exam, grade it, and go, well, I got those wrong. So when he said that, it was like, ah, moment where the light shined down on me, and I was like, oh my God, I got it. I get it. I see why he teaches us that way in the class. Even though it's frustrating, it's all get out because it's completely different from anything we've learned. And now I am so excited to continue practicing it in the anatomy class and then using it on my MCAT. So that is the study technique I will be using for my third attempt, which I've decided will be in the spring because I've decided to take a gap year. So for y'all asking when I'm taking the MCAT again, I will be taking it, I want to say end of May. End of May is what I'm planning on. I decided to drop my minor. So next semester, right now I'm in 6 classes and I just don't have the time to MCAT study. I really wish I did, but I don't, especially with this insane anatomy class. So next semester, I'm only taking Anatomy 2 and Spanish 2, and we'll be diving into the MCAT and taking it at the end of May. And I will be using this technique. So if you know any great practice question resources, please let me know, because I'm going to take it from this technique of taking the practice questions, dissecting them, and figuring them out from the content. So I will need lots of practice exams and practice books. I'm about to order, Next Steps has 2,000 discrete question book. I will be using this technique with that book. And I would love if y'all would join me if you're interested in this technique. I know that it probably hit you pretty hard because it's unlike anything we've ever heard of before for the MCAT. So let it sink in. Think about it. Test it out with a class or with MCAT. And let me know what you think. I love to know what y'all think about the study technique and if y'all will be joining me in trying this. So I just want to jump on here and tell you about this amazing technique, and I'm so inspired and excited to do it. And I look forward to hearing from y'all. So subscribe if you want some more MCAT info or pre-med info, and comment below if you're interested in this technique and what you think of it, because I really want to know what y'all think. All right, have a great day, guys. Bye.